All right, here's part two, the actual sound of the players, the coaches, or a coach, the head coach, the GM. It was exit interview days, plural, because they actually stretched this out. And we're going to hear from what some of the Warriors players and leadership had to say about this disappointing season and what's to come. I'm also going to give you some stats on how a lot of these players did this season. Most of it disappointing. Some actually was the opposite. It was actually impressive. We're going to talk about that and so much more next. It's the offseason, folks. Way too early, yet here we are. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that's FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. I love guarantees. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. As I mentioned in the previous episode, we're looking for sponsors, folks, local sponsors. And I don't mean local necessarily geographically, but I do mean local in terms of Locked On Warriors. Be a part of this. We're going to help you grow. And you can help us out in the process as well. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Email warriors24pod@gmail.com if you're interested. Again, warriors24pod@gmail.com if you're interested in being a part of this program. As I said in the previous episode, we could even do shows from your location if that's what you want to do. I'm down for that. I like being at home, but I also like growing a business. So let's grow together. And meanwhile, the subject matter of this program is the Golden State Warriors. That's what we talk about here on this little show that we produce and host. And the Golden State Warriors had exit interviews where at the end of the season, the team gets as many players as they can. Typically, the head coach is involved. Typically, the GM is involved. And they answer questions. It's a pretty straightforward premise. Now, I'm going to start with Steve Kerr. Yeah, I've criticized him a lot. I also think it's very justifiable. He's the head coach. He makes a lot of damn important decisions. He's the gatekeeper when it comes to player minutes and rotations. And the fact of the matter is, this team has missed the playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years. This team, under Steve Kerr for the last 5 years, has had a .500 record. Now, they did win a title, and that 1 year is what Kerr is counting on to keep his job and to continue making these important decisions. Now, one fascinating thing I found, and this was not from an exit interview. This was an interview that Steve Kerr did, and he does this every week during the season, with the official flagship radio station of the Golden State Warriors. That's 95.7 The Game. And it's very important to mention that the Warriors have their own radio station. Not technically, they don't own the station, but they have a partnership. That station is all about making the Warriors happy so they can continue having access. And they also have their own TV station, NBC Sports Bay Area. My point of bringing those up is, when you hear rhetoric from anyone working for those programs, always keep in mind they want the Warriors to be happy. That's why you're here. We give you the objective information. We give you the unbiased content. We're not trying to make the Warriors happy. That's why we actually criticize when it's warranted. Anyway, so Steve Kerr was on the afternoon drive time show. I believe he has a weekly program there. And the topic came up of the team's size or lack thereof. The Golden State Warriors had the smallest team in the NBA this season. Again, average height of 6'5". And one decision, and this has been a constant critique of mine when it comes to Steve Kerr, is he realizes things a little too late. It could be a couple days late, could be a couple months late, could be a year late. And when it comes to the issue of this team's size, even though we've been harping for over a year now that this team was small, too small, the NBA has changed drastically. The only reason why the big died in the first place is because the Warriors were an anomaly of a dynasty in that they had two of the greatest shooters in NBA history largely carrying this team. They also had a Swiss Army knife of a player in Draymond Green who was an anomaly in and of himself, anchoring the defense, leading the offense as a de facto point guard. And now those shots are not falling as much as they used to. They're getting older. And big surprise, everyone's remembering, we've known here, but Steve Kerr and quite a few others are now realizing, oh yeah, size does matter in a sport where it's always mattered. So it is frustrating that he comes to these revelations far later than this podcast host, and I'm sure a lot of you do. Anyways, but Steve Kerr was on the afternoon drive time show, and the topic came up of size and whether or not this team should get bigger. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say.
Do you guys need to be taller?
I mean, last night you could see we were overwhelmed physically. They were getting every long rebound, every loose ball. That's where we really missed Gary yesterday. He's a guy who gets a lot of extra possessions for us. But there are times, and some of it is, when we're playing our best players, we tend to be on the small side, and so it's a tough combination when if you're getting beat athletically and with size, you got to be perfect to win games, and so I do think we need to be a little bigger, a little more athletic.
I mean, better late than never to realize that, Coach, but I mean, and again, this is where the whole like Steve Kerr's gut thing comes in, it took him until falling to the 10 seed, losing to the Kings. Apparently now he realizes it, even though almost everyone else has been saying this for well over a year, including yours truly. But look, better late than never. If Warriors fans are going to be stuck with this guy for at least another year, and Steve Kerr's 2-year, $36 million contract extension starts next season, they're going to have to get bigger. There's no question about that. In part one of this two-parter, we talked a lot about, not a lot, but we talked about this roster in general, some of the free agents coming up, some of the potential decisions that need to be made, that might be made. But size is at the forefront. Trace Jackson-Davis proved he belongs, but he needs help. Draymond Green needs help. My question remains, why did you think this roster was going to be fine the way it is? Why did you not see what I saw a year ago? Side note, my services are available for the Golden State Warriors if you want them, but that would require you to actually do the right thing. And I digress. A couple other sound bites. This was from interview day. Steve Kerr again. And this time Steve Kerr is talking about his offensive scheme. Now that scheme is something I don't criticize. If there is a positive to Steve Kerr's coaching, and there is, my entire issue with Steve Kerr, just to repeat, is that I question his decision-making skills when it comes to personnel. All right. He is a master of scripting plays out of timeouts. And his offensive scheme, largely a hybrid of Tex Winter's triangle offense that Phil Jackson implemented during his Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers days, resulting in 11 world championships, combined with Greg Popovich's motion offense, is exemplary. But I don't care what the system is. If you don't have talent, it's worthless. And here's Steve Kerr talking about a potential need to simplify his offense. I don't know if I agree with this or not, but let's hear what Steve Kerr has to say. And by the way, and thanks to NBC Sports Bay Area for posting a lot of these clips on their Twitter account. Want to sincerely thank them for that. Here is again Steve Kerr.
Steve, on Tuesday night after the game, you had a moment of self-reflection and you said you need to be better, especially with the offense, getting what you want out of the offense. What did you mean by that?
I think the offense can help the defense. The game has always been connected. And I think, we've had a unique style for 10 years here that's mainly based on the off-ball movement of Steph and Clay, the unique nature of Draymond's being a point center, for lack of a better expression. We have unique players, so we've played a unique style. Some of it planned, some of it simply morphing into a way, the way that we've done things, a way that we've played. We've been turnover prone for a long time, partly because we freelance quite a bit. I feel like the last couple of years, our team hasn't been built to withstand some of the mistakes and the turnovers, but also it hasn't been built in a way to support some of that freelancing. So I have to take it on myself to help the players be put in better positions to make better decisions, if that makes sense. One of my most important experiences in basketball was playing in the triangle offense in Chicago. I learned so much basketball from Tex Winter and Phil Jackson. And what Phil used to tell us was, we don't run the triangle for Michael and Scotty. We run it for the rest of you guys. We can run anything for those guys and they'll be fine, but we run it for the rest of you guys to help you make decisions, to help simplify the game. And I'm not going to run the triangle, so don't, put that in a headline, but I need to make, I need to create a simpler format. We're still going to do a lot of the things that we've done. We can't go away from what has helped make us successful. But I think I need to teach it better. I need to simplify some things. I need to give our guys maybe a little better template for how we're going to accomplish it. Because like I said, when you connect the game and you can make better decisions offensively, it translates to the defensive end and you become a better team. So I've got to do a better job of that.
Sorry, I was muted there for a second there. And vice versa, in the sense that a good defense will also translate to a good offense. And that's oftentimes where the team has failed tremendously. It's oftentimes why their perimeter defense has failed them, because if you're putting up bad shots offensively, the other team is running. The other team is pushing the ball. Your defense has no time to get set. You're scrambling to find the player you're assigned to on a man defense. If it's a zone, it doesn't matter anyways. So other teams are getting open looks. They're attacking without the defense being set. So if your defense is exemplary, like the Warriors have often been, like the Warriors were the second half of this season, not just with Draymond coming back, that was a huge part of it, but also Trace Jackson Davis being a part of it as well. There is a correlation there. I don't doubt that for a second. I thought that was interesting. One last clip I want to talk about. Kerr discussing Jonathan Kuminga's breakthrough season. And we'll play that in just a moment after we get some leftover sponsors for today. And first up, including a new sponsor of the program, and that is Yahoo Finance. We all need to figure out ways to better secure ourselves financially, and that's one of the many resources Yahoo Finance provides. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For over 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors. And it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. So for comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, Yahoo Finance. The #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. Again, that's yahoofinance.com. And today's episode is also brought to you by the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that's FanDuel. And while we're here, I want to talk about the Western Conference playoff series, what the lines are, and to share my thoughts on some of those. Why don't we, if you're watching on YouTube, take a look at the official FanDuel Sportsbook website. Nuggets and Lakers for the series. The Lakers are plus 310. This largely signifies how much individuals and bettors feel about the Denver Nuggets, who a lot of people think are the favorites to repeat as world champions, even though the odds give the Celtics the slight nod. I think that's partly because of the much easier path the Celtics also have in the Eastern Conference. But plus 310 for a Lakers team that did look good down the stretch, that can match the Nuggets size. The Nuggets are thinner than they were a year ago. I wouldn't bet the house on this, but I wouldn't be afraid to put a small wager down given those plus 310 odds for the Lakers. Do I think the Lakers will win the series? No, but plus 310, those are great odds. T-Wolves and Suns. The Minnesota Timberwolves right now are underdogs in this series, plus 114. They've struggled against the Phoenix Suns this year, but you have an opportunity here to bet on the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 3 seed in the West, as underdogs. Now, I would personally wait until after game 1 to bet on this, and not to mention the odds might actually skew towards a more favorable result. Or you could bet on the Timberwolves now while they're still underdogs, watch them win game 1. Those odds will shift immediately, and you're going to sit back and be happy in the process. I'm going to take Minnesota, though, plus 114. I mean, they're underdogs. I mean, they're a damn good team. I know Phoenix is good too, but I would bet on Minnesota plus 114. Not so much because I'm confident in Minnesota, but because I like those odds for a 3 seed. Clippers, Mavericks. The Mavericks minus 134. Clippers plus 110. I like the Mavericks in that series. Those odds suck, so I would stay away from that. But minus 134 is the line, and that's what FanDuel gives you. And it's more specifically the FanDuel Sportsbook. And just FanDuel in general. Man, California, come on, legalize it. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed, whether you win or lose. Don't you love guarantees? They're phenomenal. They're amazing. $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe and secure, easy to use. What are you waiting for? $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's amazing. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon TV Fire Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Why don't we get back to hearing from the players and some of the coaches from their exit interviews? So we were left off with one more clip that I was going to play from Steve Kerr pertaining to Jonathan Kuminga. Now, if you watch this show consistently, if you're an everydayer, you know full well how I feel about Kuminga. I love this kid. And I also simultaneously don't like the way Kerr has coached him so far. It took Jonathan Kuminga not once, but twice to speak out publicly, to fight for his right to play, to fight for his very livelihood. I respect the kid for doing that. Who knows where he would be if he did not come out and publicly call out his head coach for the poor, unfair, illogical treatment. And he got rewarded for that. He became a starter, and he had a great season, in my humble opinion. Kuminga had career highs in scoring. He was third on the team, averaging 16.1 points per game. His rebounding numbers drastically increased this year. That was a point of contention for a lot of people. They wanted him to grab more boards. He averaged 4.8 rebounds in just 26.4 minutes per game. If he was averaging 30 plus, that number's above 5. That is good, folks. Kuminga for the year, in terms of rebounding, was 5th on the team behind Trayce Jackson-Davis, Kevon Looney, Brandon Pajemski, who's an anomaly, and Draymond Green. So that number drastically improved. And let's hear from Steve Kerr about his feelings on his young small forward, power forward, forward. I don't know what we're calling him, but here's Steve Kerr's thoughts.
Having gone through another year with Jonathan, just how would you assess his growth this season, and then what are the next steps for him in order to be more and more of a featured part of the offense?
JK had a really good year, a breakthrough year for sure. I think he got more and more confident, with his play. I think one thing that was interesting for us is that when we made the shift in the starting lineup mid-season and had Draymond at the 5 and Wiggs and JK at the 4, or the 3 and the 4 combined, it was very helpful for JK to get the ball with more space, get downhill.
Also more helpful for the Golden State Warriors, coach. I wish you would have acknowledged that.
I think it unlocked some of the things he can do. Then he got hurt, and our defense was at its best with Trayce and Draymond.
And that is, I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment. I don't know if that's a straight up diss. And this is the kind of rhetoric I just am not a fan of from Steve Kerr. He's publicly criticizing Kuminga. He literally said right there, the defense was better without him in the lineup. That is malarkey. That is utter nonsense. If he believed that, he would not be putting Kuminga on the other team's best player routinely in defensive matchups. The statistics, the one defensive measurable, which is most accurate for judging a player's defensive performance, are matchup numbers. And I'm going to do this. One of the many shows I'm going to have in future episodes pertaining to the Warriors is who was good this last year defensively in terms of matchups. Because the NBA collects stats which tell you how a player was doing defending others individually and how other players were shooting against them, how many turnovers that individual caused specifically. Those numbers show Kuminga had a fantastic defensive year, and it's really sad that Steve Kerr is sitting here saying that the defense got better without Jonathan Kuminga. Strongly agree to disagree.
That meant it was more difficult to play JK at the 3 because you don't have the spacing, and he's not a natural 3 at this point. Decision making.
Another strongly agree to disagree take from Steve Kerr, that Jonathan Kuminga apparently is not ready to play small forward. Strongly, I ardently say this, agree to disagree. Jonathan Kuminga could easily handle the 3 if Steve Kerr had committed to a lineup earlier this season with Trayce Jackson-Davis at the 5, Draymond at the 4, Kuminga at the 3, Wiggins moved to his natural position, the 2, and then Steph Curry at the 1, they would not finish as a 10 seed. They would finish as a 5 seed. I fervently believe that. And this is one of the reasons why I do not support this man as the head coach of the Warriors. I don't think he is astute. I don't think, I really think his vision is based largely on seeing Steph and Clay with hearts and rainbows around him. Same with Draymond Green, despite his volatility. And then he sees Kuminga as not them.
King ball handling. So we, in the Sacramento game the other night, we went to both lineups. You know, at the first sub, we went to that smaller lineup with J.K. Wiggs, Draymond. So we were looking at both. So, you know, what I think what J.K. is looking at is how can he make himself more versatile to be available in different lineups? You know, can he be a 3? It's a big question. And I don't know the answer to it.
For the record, not a big question. He easily could do it. Almost any other head coach would easily see the value in Kuminga. He would have played him in year 2, not wait until year 3. And just to put it in perspective for you folks out there, Jonathan Kuminga's net rating was 3rd on the team. Okay. Net rating individually is a subjective stat. It starts becoming incredibly objective when you put it together over an entire season. You start to see over the course of an entire season, that's when the body work comes into play. And Jonathan Kuminga was 3rd. Or I'm sorry, I think he might have fallen to 4th because Steph had such a strong push toward the year, where Brandon Pajemski was 1st, which is incredible in and of itself as a rookie. Draymond Green was 2nd. Stephen Curry 3rd. Jonathan Kuminga was 4th on this team in net rating. Yet we hear this kind of rhetoric from his head coach. It doesn't sound supportive. Oh, incredibly critical. I really do believe that Kerr took it personally, that Kuminga had to come out publicly to criticize him and to fight for his minutes. But regardless, it's this kind of rhetoric that really puts a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Steve Kerr.
But I know that as we continue to help him and he continues to learn how to create spacing and get a shot off a little quicker and be more comfortable catch and shooting, but also making the right reads, because as a 3, you handle the ball more. Can he become a better passer? I think he sees the floor pretty well, but his fundamentals in terms of passing have to improve if he's going to play the 3. We need him to play the 3 if we want to have, you know, Trace out there at the 5 and Draymond. I mean, that ideally would be a great defensive lineup athletically and length, but we're not ready for that yet, you know, as a team.
And it's this kind of rhetoric that is why you have so many fans against Kuminga, is because his own head coach publicly critiques him. Jonathan Kuminga on the year, again, his average net rating per game was plus 3.6. And again, collectively for the team, he was 4th on the team in net rating. And his turnover numbers were outstanding. He averaged 16.1 points per game. I'll read his stats one more time. I don't know this kid personally, okay? I'm not advocating for him because I have some personal feelings. He is just that good of a player, and it seems like everyone who knows basketball sees it except for his own head coach. 16.1 points per game. He averaged just 1.6 turnovers per game. He, for the season, his 3-point shooting was one area of his game that even I will criticize, but at least it went up to 32.1%, which is not awful. It's just slightly below the Mendoza line of 33%. His free throw shooting, 74.6%. His field goal percentage, 52.9%. His assist numbers, he averaged 2.2 assists. That went up. And if anything, I feel like watching him play, those assist numbers are his passing. I'm sorry. All he does is look for the best opportunity out there in terms of an offensive scorer. He routinely gives the ball up. He routinely involves his teammates. All Steve Kerr does is hinder his development. I don't want to just hijack the entire show with that topic, but that's such a turnoff. Let's quickly give some love. I'm running really late. I apologize for this. To LinkedIn, our other sponsor for the day. and more specifically, LinkedIn jobs. I mean, look, we're in an economy right now where everything's more expensive. And if you're looking for a job, I don't know if there's a better place to find it than LinkedIn. And if you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. They're not just a job board. They help you hire professionals that you can't hire anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, it's the offseason. We'll be back at it early next week, 5 days a week, talking about the Warriors offseason. And we're also probably going to be likely touching on some of the NBA postseason games as well. We'll save that for the final segment. Today's show, I did a survey real fast on my Threads account. You can follow me on Threads at Dog Wild. And I conducted a survey just to see who Dub Nation is rooting for this postseason since the Warriors are out of it. I only had 4 options to play, so I selected Eastern Conference teams. I also allowed people to go in the replies and list a team that was not in the survey. Saw a lot of mentions of the Dallas Mavericks in there, scattered selection of other teams as well. But in terms of the survey, the New York Knickerbockers, 42% of those surveyed are rooting for them. 25% are going with the Indiana Pacers, 17% the Milwaukee Bucks, 16% of Dub Nation is rooting for the Philadelphia 76ers. One last clip. I think we're running out. We have run out of time actually in terms of the exit interviews. But so we'll save some more for next week. There were some incredible sound bites that I do want to get to, but we're up against the clock today. But long story short, the Warriors have a lot to deal with on their hands. And I'm just really disappointed in Kerr and just his overall treatment of the young players. It wasn't just Kuminga that I was really disappointed in. It was also Moses Moody. In fact, why don't we hear from Moody real fast, just because the hairdo alone is worthy of at least an appearance on YouTube. So Moody was asked about his journey this season. I wish he played more. Here's Moody and his hair let loose.
How frustrating was this season for you from a just role fluctuation standpoint?
Frustrating wouldn't be the word I'd use to describe it. You know, it's a journey. Just like any other journey, going to be highs and lows, going to be adversity. So, just perspective, dealing with everything.
Do you feel like you kind of know what your role is with this team and into the future, or is this something you kind of need to figure out this summer still, like where you fit in on this team?
Figuring out what it is in the future, what it's been. Yeah, that's something that's still gotta figure out. Yeah.
How frustrating was this season?
I'm sorry. And that answer tells you right there everything you need to know about how Moody felt this season. He was grossly misused and mistreated. He wasn't the only, and Kuminga wasn't the only one who publicly complained about Steve Kerr. So did Moses Moody. I've said this before and I'll say it again. This team needs desperately new leadership. They have a head coach that is just completely out of touch with the game. He's slow to react. Has not earned my trust in terms of personnel decisions. And we've got a whole offseason to touch on this. I won't just focus it on Steve Kerr, I promise. But hearing him talk about Kuminga was colossally disappointing, except for the fact that he at least sees Kuminga as part of the future in lineups that where he's a small forward alongside Draymond and Brandon and Trace Jackson Davis. That was encouraging. I'll roll with that as a positive. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.